morning, and I will not talk too much because I want to hear more from our panelists and of course talk more about our Harkin International Disability Employment Summit, along with our Iowa International Center's travel seminar. My name is Cassie Bailey. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the International Programs Director at Iowa International Center, and we are very excited about this program and partnering with the Harkin Institute on this trip. With that, a few housekeeping things is that we would, of course, have everybody be muted during this time. Feel free to have your camera on or off, but it is being recorded, just so that you are aware. If you ever have any questions, you can always feel free to raise your hand, drop it in the chat. We really hope it's a discussion because I think that all of us here are probably very passionate about this topic, are very interested. So we want to hear from you and what you want to learn about both the summit and maybe just Northern Ireland in general. So with that, I am actually going to hand it over to Ashley Lance to introduce herself, and she is going to be helping us with discussing a little bit more about the summit.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction, Cassie. My name is Ashley Lance, and it's a pleasure to be among you today. A little bit about myself is my work is in disability and employment. I work at a consultancy group called Griffin Hannes Associates, and it's had the opportunity to help lead our Iowa Harkin Summit this past year. And so it's a pleasure to be joining you to talk about the International Summit and the companion trips. So I'm glad that you are with us. And I am going to turn it over to the Harkin Institute's Director of Disability Policy, Daniel Van Sant.
Hi, thank you everybody for joining us here for your lunch hour, or in the case of Sean, your evening, and whatever time in between. So my name is Daniel Van Sant. I am, as Ashley said, the Director of Disability Policy here at the Harkin Institute on Drake University's campus in Des Moines, Iowa. Part of this position is that I am leading and directing our work on the Harkin Summit, which you're going to be hearing about throughout today's presentation. We are hosting in Belfast, Northern Ireland this summer. And I also have the privilege of working with the Iowa International Center in helping develop this companion piece of a trip as well. We have had Harkin Summits since 2016, so this is not our first one, but it is the first one that includes a companion trip like this that's going to give the people that attend the trip just a little bit extra access of meetings and tours and activities and things like that. So we're really excited for that opportunity for business leaders, political leaders, self-advocates with disabilities to go in a little bit deeper dive and hopefully make some citizen diplomacy connections between Iowa and Northern Ireland that I think we all hope will continue long after the summit is completed. Excellent. So I think at that point then, oh, sorry, I'm happy to pass it to Sean or Ashley. I don't know if that's up to you.
Excellent. Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Thank you, Daniel. Hello, everybody. Just, I suppose, an introduction from myself. As you can tell by my accent, I'm not from Iowa. I'm dialing in from just outside Belfast, a place called Ballyalton. It's very, very small, and it's quite rural, but the sun is shining. So, look, my role in all of this is I currently work for our Department for Communities in Northern Ireland. I've been seconded there to act as project lead for planning and delivery of the Harkin Summit Belfast. Prior to that, my role in all of this came about in 2017 when I received a personal invitation from Senator Harkin to come to Washington and to update him and the Summit and the Institute on what was happening in Northern Ireland. So this summit is a culmination of a lot of work from a lot of different people, and we're really excited by the enthusiasm from the amount of applications we have had. I don't know if you want me to go into them now at this point, Ashley, or what level of detail. We're just doing introductions.
Yeah, go ahead, because I think after that we'll go into questions. So take it away.
Yeah, don't be afraid to poke me and tell me to stop talking. So we had a phenomenal response rate. We opened this up basically to the world. We wanted to democratize this summit, and Senator Harkin and his team at the Institute were very receptive and warm to that. We felt it was important that Daniel had mentioned earlier about grassroots activists and young people being able, if you can see something, you can be it. So we opened an expression of interest, and we received over 150 applications from around the world. Now, I know that Daniel and his colleagues sat on the assistant panel for that, and it was an immensely difficult task to bring that down, to whittle that down to 47 agenda items. And you'll have seen from the website, or if you haven't already, take a look afterwards, the level of agenda that we have formed. We are absolutely delighted to have organizations like the World Bank, the ILO, Microsoft, PayPal, Twitter. As alongside that, we have a lot of organizations that are slightly smaller. And the beautiful thing about this is, in terms of tickets and stuff, they're selling very quickly. We have opened this out. So as if anyone has put in an application, because there was very little applications that were not up to scratch, they were a super high standard, we've invited them along to this summit to discuss their ideas, because it's not the case that they weren't great. It's maybe that they were just getting started. So there's lots of ideas are going to be in that room. The last thing I'll say before I keep quiet is, Ashley had touched upon it and Cassie had touched upon it. This is the first time that I've seen it. Since 2017, I've been to every summit, bar Iowa. This is the first time that I've seen that kind of wraparound trip. And I have to say, it sounds and looks very, very exciting. And I know that whenever Daniel was over, he was knocking on an awful lot of doors to very exciting stuff. And he'll be able to tell you further on in the conversation, I don't think there's been a single door that hasn't opened. So you're going to get something really quite special, is my feeling on it.
Excellent. Thank you. And I just want to echo Sean and Daniel's excitement. And I think also this is really an opportunity for a small group of Iowa leaders to come together and create this unique experience that's in a partnership with the Harkin Summit. And hopefully we can see this continue throughout other future summits. But I think knowing that you're going to be part of this small group also gives you some opportunity to share your insights of what you might hope to see. Cassie and Daniel and Sean have put together some great ideas, but I think there's still opportunity to share and customize your trip a little bit too. So with that, questions. I'd love to hear from those of you who are joining us, whether you want to just use the chat box, or Cassie, if it's okay if they unmute, but what are you most excited for as part of the International Summit? If it's the networking, or I know for me personally, I've attended a lot of summits, conferences, been with like-minded people around disability employment, but it's been specific to the States, right? And to take that internationally, and I think to learn from one another and from that business focus as well, is just something incredibly unique that we're all charged with after attending the summit.
I think I can jump in there. This is Daniel. Something that I mean, obviously I'm very excited for everything, because this is my passion and a project I'm working on. But I think something that really stands out to me about this year's summit that's different from in the past is, and I might have Sean speak to this a little bit later, but there's this mentoring piece woven throughout the summit that has not existed before. And so as you register for the summit, you'll see that in addition to the, which session will you attend from 9:30 to 10:30, which keynote do you want to go to, there's also the opportunity for attendees to sign up for mentoring, one-on-one or very small group mentoring spots. And so as Sean listed off some of the people that are there, to give a global audience of people with disabilities the opportunity to sit face to face at a small table with people from companies like Microsoft, BBC, LinkedIn, so many others, and political leaders as well. I don't know of a lot of conferences of this scale that also has that really individualized personal touch. And something that I said early on in our planning is I think we've all been to conferences that are very great conferences, but when you leave a conference, at least I don't typically look back and think, oh wow, that session on this topic was really good, right? What I remember is, oh, I met this person at lunch who did this type of thing, and we've connected. It's those real personal connections that you develop that make things change, right? It's easier to follow up with somebody and say, hey, I met you at that cocktail hour, or I was in the group that toured your facility and you mentioned this, rather than I saw your presentation. And this summit gives everybody the access to that one-on-one mentoring. And then this companion trip, I would say even more so, is presenting people with opportunities before, during, and after the summit to get small group and potentially one-on-one or two-on-one meetings and interaction with business, political, and disability leaders as well. My passion has always been in youth work. Before my time here at the center, I was a special education attorney, and before that I worked in some other youth rights advocacy. And so I'm really excited that we're going to have young people with disabilities be able to come and sit across the table from, leaders of Fortune 500 companies. Like it's just an incredible opportunity. And I think that's what gets me really excited, is imagining what could grow out of that after the summit is over.
Daniel, that gets me excited already. So thank you for sharing that. Sean, how about you?
Yeah, just I suppose to lead on from where Daniel's at, one thing I can definitely attest to, and some of you may be familiar with, is the warmth of welcome that you'll get on the island of Ireland. We're very warm and friendly people, and there's a big thing, the famous Belfast welcome. So I think when you're there, you'll realize very quickly that you're in a positive space, and I think that leads to that idea of the mentoring piece. We've got a lot of people locally. Daniel has alluded to as well. With politicians that have basically said this, look, delighted, really excited by this, really want to do it. So there's theoretically a chance, we're in election period at the minute, theoretically a chance that somebody could be sitting the future first or deputy first minister. That's the kind of level of close-up access that people are going to get. And that's, if you're into your politics and stuff like that, that's going to be really, really interesting. And even if it's somebody different, I think the opportunity for people to see something and understand what is possible is very, very important. I think Daniel, you had mentioned youth work. I completely agree that sort of notion of, building people, and I don't like the phrase capacity building, but I think it's a really strong legacy piece that's going to come out of this summit and future summits. I imagine the Institute will carry on in this mode of opening it up further. I think given the response, that the energy around it, it's been really, really phenomenal. I think looking wider at Belfast, and I'm sure you have all been doing your Googling and stuff, but there is so much to list that you could potentially see. And I think going back to what was saying earlier about the trip, I think that's a really fantastic thing, in that you have it all laid on, it's all kind of packaged up. And if there's still some flexibility in it, even better, because you'll be able to pick out something extra that, you think, well, I really want to see that. You name it, it's kind of there within reaching distance. Belfast is a very compact city compared to the size of some of the places in America. So depending on mobility and everything else, walking is very doable. Wheeling, it's not a hard place to get around. And equally, depending on the length of your stay, leaving Belfast, broadly speaking, within Northern Ireland, you get to anywhere within about 2 hours. So if there's something that you really want to see, let's take, for example, Derry and Derry Girls, which everybody knows. You could conceivably jump on a bus to Derry, and you could be at the Derry Girls mural in no time. So keep that in mind. You're about 2.5 hours away from anything in Northern Ireland, if you're staying a wee bit longer. But in terms of the summit, I think it's the legacy piece that's going to leave a real impression. I agree with what Ashley and what Daniel has said around that energy of building those connections. So you never know who you'll bump into and what will come from it.
If I could just jump in here, this is Vicki Graff, and I'm driving, so you may not be able to hear me very well. Can you hear me okay? Sean, put a thumbs up if you, okay, very good. So I just want to second everything that Sean has just said. As someone who has been privileged to go to Belfast off and on for the last 10 years, except obviously during COVID and everything. I just have to second everything that Sean says. I think for those of you who've never been, you're going to find the people of Northern Ireland and the Republic, if you choose to go there too, so warm and open and wanting to be helpful and to learn from each other and so forth. So yes, I will second and third and fourth everything that Sean just said. I'm very excited that the Harkin Summit is going to be in Belfast. It's really going to be a mutually beneficial opportunity for people around the world who get to know Belfast and all the wonderful things it has to offer, but also to bring us all together with this common purpose, I think is absolutely so incredible. And those of us in the US know the unemployment rate for persons with disabilities is just astronomical. And so anything we can do to maximize opportunities for persons with disabilities, I think is outstanding. So I can't wait to get over there and to see my friends as well as to meet new ones. So thanks, Sean, and everyone who's organized this amazing event.
Thanks, Vicky. Thank you. Here.
Yeah, thank you, Vicki. That was wonderful. Cassie, how about you from the Iowa International Center perspective? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, I mean, I feel like with everybody, I'm just looking forward to travel, partly. Since the pandemic, I haven't gone abroad, obviously. But in general, some of the things that I am really looking forward to, and it kind of hits on both what Daniel and Sean said, is it feels like already that I haven't been to Northern Ireland, but everybody seems like kind of like Iowa. Everybody's a couple calls away. So I know that already in the trip schedule for the companion trip through Iowa International Center, we actually have a facility tour. So you wouldn't be able to get maybe that insight look from, and I am going to butcher their name because all I can think is their acronym, but they're the biggest social enterprise in Northern Ireland. They're called USEL, I'm not sure the entire, Sean probably knows exactly who I'm talking with.
Yeah, no, you pronounced that perfect. Yep.
Okay. And I know that Daniel had the opportunity to tour the facility, and he came back and he told me like that it was just amazing that you got to see the hands-on work and what they were going to be talking about during the summit. So during the summit, you'll get to hear from them as a panel and their presentation. But if you join the companion trip, you'll get to see like the behind the scenes look. And I believe that actually their CEO will be joining us for that meeting, and then he's flying off to Spain. So I know he won't be at the actual summit. So there's some kind of like some key pieces that you'll get to have a sneak peek pre-summit on it. So those kind of connections. And I know that even just in that brief meeting with a lady from their staff, I was already like, okay, we're going to get along. Like, this is going to be amazing. Maybe we're going to meet up outside of the summit kind of thing, even for just to catch up and to get to know each other. So building those kind of connections is what also excites me.
Awesome. Thank you. And Daniel, I know you got to be in Belfast just a couple of weeks ago and get a bit of a sneak peek. So give us some insight on someone who's just been there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try not to echo points that have just been made, but I would still highlight that I was there, a few weeks ago for about a week and a half, and just everybody was so friendly. Both, the people that I've been working with, but also just strangers on the street, people in restaurants, just really excited to have, again, like, as Sean mentioned, people found out very quickly I was not from Belfast because of my Midwest accent. And so they were just so welcoming and excited to have somebody visiting from the States. And so people were very friendly. There was some really good food that I'm excited to maybe point people in different directions. I think in my short visit, that experience at USOL really stands out to me as, like Cassie said, I came back from that and immediately was emailing Cassie and Karen to put them together to say, however we can make this work, you have to experience what I just experienced. And so they are the largest employer of people with disabilities in Northern Ireland. and it's almost hard to describe everything that they do, but they run a coffee shop, they do industrial sewing, they do industrial recycling, repurposing. There was like a section where they were tearing down and recycling mattresses. And it's not just disabled employment, it's inclusive employment. So the people there are employees with and without disabilities working right alongside each other. And I was excited to learn that they all make the same paycheck, right? Commensurate with their experience and how long they've been there. But the disabled workers make the same amount of money as the workers without disabilities. And I don't know that that's, well, I can say that's not always the case in the United States. There's often times where people get paid less. And so I was talking with the CEO of USL about that, and just hearing people on their end sound really confused about how the United States could have a sub minimum wage when you don't even have that concept, was like, I need more people to hear this, because to have a large factory where people are running heavy machinery and all types of equipment, and you can see people with intellectual disabilities and people communicating in sign language with non-disabled workers, was just really exciting to see. I would also echo that outside of the summit, there's a lot of really cool tourism spots. I had the chance to go to St. George Market, which is a small indoor farmers market style of place. And I know Iowans, especially people in Des Moines, we love our farmers markets. So that was a really cool place to go. And it's actually close to the central train station. And I was able to hop on the train and go down the coast. Being in Iowa, we don't have access to a lot of ocean here, and just being on the coast was beautiful. It's kind of like everything you've seen in pictures. But yeah, those are some things that really stand out to me. Just great people. The city itself is very walkable, like any older city, whether that's in Europe or the United States. Some places were inaccessible, but I would say largely you're able to get around. Public transportation is very accessible. I accidentally got in an accessible taxi cab once, and so the fact that I just walked out of the central station, and one of the cabs in the lineup was wheelchair accessible, just in the lineup. No one had to request it. Nobody had to book it. I think in the United States, right, if I was in a large city and needed an accessible taxi, I would be waiting on a corner for a long time, hoping that one would show up. So you can read about these if you follow the hashtag Harkin Belfast on Twitter. I have some photos up from the visit of the ICC and of this accessible taxi and things like that. So things like it just was really cool to get out and say, oh, there's just accessible taxis on the street that our participants could use.
I have to say, yeah. Daniel, just when you're on that point, I think we were really pleased to hear, because we were quite worried. We know, I mean, in terms of legislative protection, we would still view America as having the benchmark standard outside of the UNCRPD, and we have difficulties around legislation in our part of the world divergent from Britain. But we were pleased to hear the kind of positive, and I think it is fair to say Belfast is a very accessible city. Bar things like historic buildings, which are still in the process, and cobble streets, but everything is, with a little bit of planning, navigatable. And obviously, again, I sound like I'm trying to sell the trip. I'm not. I'm just jealous. I can't go on it. But I think as part of that, all that will be taken into account. So if you're visiting a certain venue, you don't really need to worry, because the homework will have been done in advance. Not that you need to worry anyway, but it just takes that kind of, as Daniel says, stand on a corner somewhere trying to sort it out for yourself. You'd rather be enjoying the views of wherever you're going. And absolutely extra days around the summit outside of the visit program you've got sorted. Countryside, beaches, the works, everything's very close at hand.
Awesome, thank you, Sean. And maybe this could be a question for Cassie, Sean, or Daniel, but talk about maybe the accommodations a little bit. So would this group be staying in the same hotel space? How far away? Is it just for those of us who are visual, kind of just, what might that look like from flying in, maybe catching the bus or logistics.
Do you want me to take that, Daniel, or would you like to, since you've seen it firsthand?
I was going to say, I'm happy to start, but I actually think the three of us will all be able to add something different. So for this Iowa International Center trip, I want to stress that price includes your hotels. And so Cassie will work with you so that people on the trip are staying, either together or at least in hotels that are affiliated with the conference. There is a hotel, the Hilton is attached to the ICC, which is the conference center. So that one is right there on site, but the hotels that are not attached, Sean and I and the rest of the committee have worked together to make sure that those hotels do have a number of accessible rooms. They also will have a shuttle system just for the summit. So not your typical hotel shuttle that we might be used to. There will be an accessible shuttle going from the conference center to these hotels, including the ones that you would book through this trip, to transport people there who, whether you have a mobility impairment, another disability, or just don't want to walk, you could get on this shuttle and be dropped off right at the front door of the conference center. So I think those are two pieces of accessibility that I would highlight for the trip. The conference itself, we are going to provide captioning. We're working on shoring up various forms of sign language because of a global audience. We need multiple types of sign language. And so we're getting that lined up. All those other pieces as well, that we have a full staff. Well, we have the summit committee. There's also employees of the conference center that will be on site to help people. And I think about 40, 45, Sean, volunteers
that's the plan,
that are
I think
volunteering at the
yeah.
summit. So if, again, whether it's a disability related need or any need, there will be plenty of people around to help you find bathrooms, get food, bring water bottles, bring notepads and things like that. So we really are ramping up those features to make sure that everybody has equal access. It's obviously important in a disability summit to make sure that people have equal access to the information.
I think it's fair to say as well, Daniel, on that point, it's kind of a win-win. That obviously we want to do it because it's legally it's right, morally it's right, and we wouldn't do it any other way. But we see the value in taking the frustration out of those things and getting people there into the space and contributing and not having to worry about those things. Can I just check? I probably should know the answer to this. Where are you flying into? Is it Dublin? Is that the plan, Cassie?
So currently, right now, what it is that it is up to everybody that signs up for the companion trip to choose. So
Okay.
the program will start once they arrive in Belfast
Okay.
on that
Okay.
Saturday night, and the official program schedule starts Sunday.
Okay. I think it's fair to say, I would imagine predominantly most people would be flying to Dublin. And just to give you the heads up on that, it's the best airport on the island, I would say. And it's easy to say that, but it is. It's also, I mean, it's funny, Daniel and I have joked, we would view it as a big airport. I think Daniel thought it was quite small. So it'll give you an idea of perceptions. But we also, as well, the thing I should say about Dublin Airport, the reason I raise it is, in terms of support at the far side when you get off the plane, I have to say, in my experience, and I've been through it a lot of times, it's been very, very good. Now, obviously, sometimes things go a little bit awry, but I have to say that's one of the best airports that I've been in for service. And again, it comes down to that kind of Irish thing of trying to help. So I think you'll get a warm welcome there. In terms of travel up the road, just to give you an idea, I know you maybe look at a map and go, that's quite a while away. You're about an hour and a half up the road. So if you imagine Dulles and DC, it would be quicker, I would say, and less traffic, much less traffic. So it's a nice drive, actually. It's mostly motorway, but you'll see an awful lot of the green countryside. So it's a good airport, if that's a stress. Yeah, I know some people don't like airports.
Yeah, I can chime in on the airport piece too. When I was in Belfast a few weeks ago, I flew in and out of Dublin, and there's a bus that takes you between Belfast and Dublin that runs fairly regularly. And so I landed in Dublin, and without really any planning ahead, I got through customs, grabbed my bag, got outside. There was very clearly marked the bus going to Belfast. I got on, paid for my ticket in cash. I think it was 17 euros, and was in Belfast an hour and 45 minutes later. It was very quick. And then leaving, I booked my ticket on the bus ahead of time, got on the bus in the center of Belfast, went to Dublin, flew out. The other benefit I would say for the Dublin airport is they have a US passport control in the Dublin airport. So as American citizens, or I guess anyone traveling to America, you pass through passport control there. So my bag went from Dublin straight through to Des Moines. When I landed in the US, I connected through Boston. There was no passport control, no stamping, no getting in line for customs. That was all handled in Dublin, which is, again, I guess I called it a smaller airport. So it was very seamless from that end. In terms of the bus going between the two, I would say I have a physical disability, but do not use assistive devices. And I was able to navigate that. If you used a wheelchair or a walker, or had maybe more significant physical or sensory needs, I would maybe plan ahead on the bus. I have been told that there are buses between Dublin and Belfast that have wheelchair lifts and ramps and things like that, but I don't know that I would hop off the airport and go straight to the bus stand without maybe planning a little bit ahead on that side. But those are just some considerations between the flights. I know there's options to get to Belfast directly, but I would echo the Dublin flight was a really good experience.
I forgot about the customs bit actually, Daniel. That's a really good point, and it speeds it up. Being able to walk onto American soil in the Dublin airport is great. Very, very handy.
And I'll just echo what some of my insight, what came from Daniel, but as part of the companion trip, of course, we will have information on all of the participants. And so if you have any accessibility needs, we would just want to make sure that we're aware of everything that you would want ahead of time. And then we'll arrange all of that as part of the program. Because again, that's the whole purpose of this trip. So we want to make sure that everybody has access and that this is a great trip. We'll even have like a booklet put together. And I know the same is for the Harkin Summit attendees in general, about accessible restaurants for your downtime or tourist attractions, things like that, that will be included in that information. And if you are part of the IIC companion trip, of course, I will be there on hand to help you and have a packet of tips and tricks and things that we should be aware of maybe even packing. Who knows? Some of us haven't traveled in a while, like I said, so we might need some reminders on the different restrictions on the airport, or how to go through customs, or packing what we need to include, things like that. So I will be kind of like the go-to person for anybody as part of the companion trip. But I know that we'll be using a lot of the Harkin Summit resources on those accessible restaurants, things like that.
I also wanted to maybe jump in on a question or two that are in the chat right now. It looks like people are kind of responding, but Emily had a question about knowing who's coming ahead of time and arranging some visits. And so I would say, yeah, I definitely think that's part of this, right? I mentioned anyone who's at the summit. The summit is a conference. You will be exposed to these people, and it's kind of on you to do those introductions, meet people, and things like that. I would say the benefit of this Iowa International Center trip is that once we start seeing who is registering for it, Ashley, Cassie, Sean, and I are working together to say, if we have people from a certain industry who is interested in a certain speaker, Sean and I can get their contact information to Ashley and Cassie and start setting up meetings between the group like that. I would love to be able to do that for every single person that attends. Fortunately and unfortunately, we will have hundreds of people there in person, and I am one person. So I'd say that I guess my job is to sell the trip, Sean. I won't put that pressure on you, but I would say that's the benefit of the trip is, right, it costs a little bit more money. Of course, I think everyone knows that, but you're you're paying for that sort of concierge experience to have these customized. So if a business from Iowa signs up and tells Ashley, we're really interested in talking to finance companies, we can put together some contacts and things like that. If you want to talk to agribusiness or IT, right, we can pull that together, and we've got Ashley and Cassie helping to customize that experience.
And please don't be shy in that. I don't think you will. I don't think as Americans you are very shy in asking, and we're not either. It's funny you say about the finance bit. Daniel, we had a query very similar to just what you were mentioning from a university in the last couple of days, who had a small delegation going. I think what's interesting to say is a lot of these people, a lot of these organizations, they're not sending one, they're normally sending 2 or 3. So their delegation was very keen to link in with anybody in fintech and banking. So, we've already started the ball rolling there. So by the time they get here, they're very warmed up. I'm assuming, I'm guessing, I don't know, that they're looking into seed funding and all that sort of stuff, but they obviously seen the benefit to this of, being there themselves on the ground in Belfast. So I echo what Daniel says. Anything, especially this group, I think that's a fair point, Daniel. We'll not be doing that for everybody because we have enough emails bouncing back and forth at the minute. Yeah, this group's different.
Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to the app. I know that I am not shy either, so don't worry. I will try to take care of it myself as much as possible. But yeah, we're going to have like a smaller schedule for time in and out because we have a subsidiary in Denmark that we're trying to make it to too while we're over there. So, but excited for the trip. Steve Sukup is on Harkin Institute's board, but then also I'm the person at Sukup that was really trying to push more opening of employment with disabled persons, and I'm excited to learn more of what we can do.
And Emily, I'll just echo that if you are interested in the actual companion trip, this is our first time working with the Harkin Institute and putting this schedule together. It's not my first time taking a delegation abroad through my previous jobs. So I'm happy to meet with you. I think that you have some other meetings set up, maybe with Ashley. So we're happy to work with you and just excited that everybody's going on the trip. And I'm always happy to share with anybody on this call or the recording that a little bit more of an inside look on what the companion trip schedule looks like. We have some meetings already confirmed, but like Ashley said, we have some flexibility to make it more personalized depending on people's interests. So there's definitely, I know Sean has already helped us with Invest Northern Ireland, kind of their economic branch, and talking with them about making some of those business to business connections if we need. So
thank you.
Awesome. We're excited, Emily, that you'll be joining us.
Just to check on that last bit, I'm not too sure in terms of finalizing your agenda, and I know it's still kind of everything's fluid on our side as well. But there is a business breakfast in the works, and I know that's a big deal in terms of Invest have come forward and seen the benefit of foreign businesses that are coming across, and it will be select. So the fact that you have access to that sort of stuff, I think, is fantastic. And I hear they do nice food. They seem to roll out the good food which is fair enough. It makes sense. But enjoy it.
yes, Sean, thanks for that connection. I have that on the agenda and have talked with the organizers a little bit about making sure that the companion trip attendees can join. But we also have some other, like you said, breakfast receptions. And I know that one of the pieces about the International Harkin Summit is that, we have those global pieces. And what I think is very interesting is that actually one of the workshop speakers has been to Iowa, but he's from India. And so his center will be doing a workshop as part of the summit. I am in the process of reaching out to him to see if maybe he is coming in early to network. So you could be networking outside of the summit with other global attendees as part of this companion trip. And I'm sure I'll have some fond memories of Iowa. And I know that there's actually a couple other that have been to Iowa, either from Ireland or from Northern Ireland, that we're hoping that will be able to join us for maybe a breakfast, and could be from all sectors kind of thing.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments? plugs?
If anybody thinks of any questions afterwards, I think that everyone on this call is very open to questions, to answers. I don't know, Sean, Dan, do you have anything else? Or Ashley, even you've done a great job moderating, but is there anything that I know that you are planning on going to the summit? We haven't turned the tables on you and asked if there's anything you're excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it all, right? So I mean, it's hard to pick one thing in particular, but one of my favorite things just in general is the conversations that take place and the relationships that are formed and what comes from that, right? And just the opportunity to learn from one another on an international scale is incredibly exciting. And I just imagine whoever is part of this small group also is going to leave with some stronger relationships than just coming in for the summit, right? And doing the companion trip. And I'm really looking forward to that piece. Cassie, as far as like next steps, if, you know, Emily's ready to sign up right now and sign up her crew, what would she do?
So right now, I believe that we're gonna have a screen come up here shortly, and they have those QR codes again, and one will take you to the Iowa International Center Travel Belfast page. And on that page, there is a application. My email is also up there. Of course, though, if you have some questions or you get to the application, that is for the full like commitment or to be signed up, you're 100% in, but I am happy to talk through a draft schedule, to take a call, meet you for coffee, wherever you're at, and talk through kind of more about what the program will be. But on that website there, it'll include what's all included in your cost, and a little bit more detail about some of the meetings that we'll be having. So, of course, we also have the Harkin Belfast website up there if you're more interested in what the different workshops and what the schedule will look like. I will make one note, though, that if you do sign up for the companion trip, we are including access to the summit, so you will not need to register for both. Eventually you will, but as part of the companion trip, it is included. So you do not need to worry about that. I know right now there is, I'll plug for Daniel, an early bird registration, both virtual and in person. And that ends, I believe, on April 15th. But you have until April 30th to sign up for the companion trip. Is there anything I missed, Daniel or Sean, I guess, on that?
I think that's a really good. I was going to ask a kind of lighter-hearted question at the end to leave people thinking, because I know it was a point of debate when Daniel was over. So Daniel, I don't know if you've got something more sensible to say before I throw it into the mix.
No, I was just going to echo Cassie's point that included in the fee for the Iowa International Center trip is your registration cost. So people that join the trip get to attend the full summit without paying that extra fee, but you will have to register. We'll provide you with a code. You will have to register just to sign up for the sessions that you want. We do that so we make sure that the rooms are at the right capacity, and if people need certain accommodations, that we provide them. So I just wanted to clarify that point, that if you sign up for that trip, wait to hear from us for your discount code to get that free ticket, but you will register to make sure you get the sessions you want. Of course, if people are interested in going and not taking this extra trip, you still have that option to go to just the summit, either in person or virtually. And as Cassie mentioned, we do have an early bird rate right now of half off of either your virtual or in-person ticket. And so either way, we would encourage people to act quickly, especially in person. We do have a capacity that we cannot go above, and we have space, but we are quickly getting to that point. So if you're thinking of going in person, we would encourage people to go, and you'd save half off if you do it before a week from today, before the April 15th.
And of course, Daniel then reminded me that there is also a cap on the companion trip. And part of that is just so that we can make sure the logistics on travel, transportation And because we want it to be a big enough group that you can network within the Iowa companion trip and with, of course, everyone outside, but not too big that you feel like you're just one out of 50 people again. So we are capping it at 20 people maximum, just so everybody's aware. So again, if you are interested in signing up, the deadline for that is April 30th. And then now, Sean, what is I'm now just curious what your question or
Yeah,
note is.
I'm just gonna leave it with people to ponder because I've heard it in a few different locations when I've been away, and when Daniel came over, he seemed to hear it from us. So, I mean, we've an awful lot of filming that goes on now in Ireland, north and south, and there's a couple of big things obviously that come out. I mentioned one of them earlier, Dairy Girls, which some of you may be familiar with, and then the other one is Game of Thrones, which to my shame I have not seen. So, if when you're over and you hear people speaking about that, it's just to let you know if either is of interest, they're within about 2 hours maximum. A lot of Game of Thrones, excuse me, locations are about 30 minutes from Belfast. So if that's really your thing, you can get there very easily. And it's just then be prepared to debate when you're over which one is better. I know which camp I'm in, Daniel does as well, but we leave that with you, and I look forward to debating that with some of you when you're over.
Well, with that, oh, sorry, Ashley, did you have
Nope,
something?
go ahead. Nope, I was just gonna send it off to you, so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Ashley, for doing a great job of moderating the questions, and Daniel and Sean, thanks for joining us, especially Sean on a Friday night, really dedicated to this. So if you can't tell, we're all very excited about this. Please reach out with any questions, and we hope to see you all in Northern Ireland. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.